Go ahead.
Okay, so I actually hated ballet when I was younger. I didn't like the feeling of the tights on my legs, and I would cry and pitch a fit every time I had to put them on, and so I quit a couple times. And then I'm not really sure what happened, but I fell in love with it. And that was at about age 10, and I didn't really have the best training because I was at just a smaller local school in Washington State, and I was really bad. And then I got more serious about it, and I decided that I wanted to become a professional ballerina. And I realized that I was really far behind for my age, and so if I wanted to get a job by the time I was 18 or 19, I was going to have to do something different with my training, or else I wasn't going to get there. So I left home when I just turned 14, and I moved to Vancouver, British Columbia for my 9th grade year. I had gone to public school my whole life, and I switched to online high school. And I lived with a host family, and I had to take public transportation all over Vancouver by myself. I was really scared. And I worked my butt off in ballet that year. And then I came to Central Pennsylvania Youth Ballet when I was 15, and I stayed there for sophomore, junior, and senior year. And it was the best decision I ever made. I got so much experience, and I would not have become a professional if it weren't for that place. So I graduated high school, and then I went to San Francisco Ballet School for a year. And I got to perform with San Francisco Ballet in 6 different productions, which was amazing and incredibly inspiring. And then I auditioned for some different ballet companies in the States and in Europe, and I got a job with Pennsylvania Ballet too, which is the second company of Pennsylvania Ballet, which is where most people have to start these days, which was my first choice, and my dreams had come true, and it was absolutely amazing. So I moved to Philadelphia, August 2014, and I had this really cute apartment, and I loved the city, and I had a bunch of friends there, and it was great. All of my dreams had come true. And I landed from a jump on my 3rd day in the company, and I felt a really sharp pain in my foot, which being a ballerina, you have to deal with a lot of pain, but this didn't feel right. So I went to the doctor, and I got an x-ray, and the orthopedic doctor walked in and said, "Oh, you have a stress fracture." And my mom's a physical therapist, so I know a little bit about common injuries and what certain symptoms are. And she pointed to my foot and said, "Oh, it hurts right here." And it was a completely different part of my foot than where I had been feeling the pain. And I had no symptoms of a stress fracture other than the x-ray showing it. And so I went and I got an MRI, and I had no pain. My pain went away from when I had landed from that jump. That was fine. I still had no pain in my foot, but I got an MRI, and they found a stress fracture, and the radiologist, which was my friend's dad, told me I needed to take 6 weeks off right away, and it was still, I hadn't gone back to class since my 3rd day there, and it was the very start of my career, and so I was like, oh my gosh, this can't be happening, this just doesn't happen to people. So I went back to the doctor in Philadelphia, and she looked at my MRI, and she saw the stress fracture, and she was like, "Well, since it doesn't hurt, you can keep dancing on it." And I listened to her because it didn't hurt, and it was the beginning of my career, and I don't know why, but I did, because she's a doctor, and I trust doctors. So I danced, I guess, on a broken foot for about 2 months, and it started hurting the middle of October 2014. And I kept dancing, and we had just started rehearsing Nutcracker, and we did the same version at Pennsylvania Ballet that I did here in Carlisle. And it was my same spot in Flowers, so I knew it like the back of my hand, and I was finally in rehearsal one day. It was my chance to go in and do the part, and I've been waiting for that moment the whole time I've been there, and I was so excited. And not even 20 minutes into that rehearsal, I landed from a jump, and I felt like my foot split in half, and I couldn't put any weight on it. And there's a part where you're holding hands with other girls, and I was just gripping their hands because I couldn't stand up on my own. But I finished the rehearsal by the grace of God, because I don't know how. And I got out in the hallway, and I knew that I had a stress fracture because I had all the imaging told me so, but I was totally in denial about it, and I was like, I'm fine, I can still dance, it's fine, even though I can't walk, I can totally dance, it's gonna be fine. And so I walked down to the PT room, and I saw my artistic director and the physical therapist in the PT room, And I was like, no, no, I'm not going in there, I'm fine. And I turned around, and I could not walk back up the hallway. Like, I actually couldn't walk. And so then I opened the door, and I started hysterically crying, and I went in a boot that day, which was October 23rd, 2014. And so I went back to the doctor, and she said that I needed 3 or 4 weeks off, and that I'd be okay. So the time passed, and I got another MRI, and it hadn't healed, which was concerning. So I went home to Seattle for Thanksgiving, and I had a lot of doctor's appointments there to get different opinions. And they started finding things that didn't look right because my stress fracture had been present probably before, but we found it in August. And so stress fractures usually take 6 weeks to heal, and because I danced on it for so long, they were concerned. So I ended up having to stay home for all of December because I couldn't get out of my boot, and so I couldn't do Nutcracker. And I had a total of 9 different doctor's opinions about my foot. And I had a CT scan, which is good for my situation because you could actually see every layer of the bone, so we could really tell what was going on. And I had a consult with a surgeon, and just to look at my CT scan just to see what he would say. And normally, like, I don't know anyone else who's had surgery for a stress fracture. It is not normal. And so I went to that appointment. He looked at the CT scan, and at first he was like, well, I don't see anything that makes me think it's not going to heal. I think it's just taking its time. I don't like the quality of the CT scan, so we're going to get another one. So he left the room to get the CT scan authorized, and then he came back in, and he was like, so I found some more images, and I had my 2 other doctors that are in this practice with me look at it too, and we found something called sclerosis, which is a calcification around the outside of the crack, but not the inside, and so it's like when you bake a chocolate chip cookie and it's around the middle. Was essentially my stress fracture. So he told me that if I wanted to dance again, I would have to have surgery, because if I didn't, then I would land from a jump and the whole thing would totally break, and it would be a lot worse than it was already. And so when he proposed the surgery, he explained to me that they were going to go in and re-break my foot and shave the bone down, like get out all the bad healing and make it really, get it down to like raw, healthy, bleeding bone. And then they were going to take some bone from the back of my heel, just shave off a little sliver and put it in between the crack. And then they were going to put a screw through it to hold the piece of bone in place. And that screw would stay there until the bone graft had fully fused together. And then they would remove the screw, and then I would be able to start physical therapy. And he told me that the time where the bone was healing, before, like when I couldn't do anything, could take 3 to 5 months, and that it would be a really long recovery, but that he had done this kind of thing before, and that he could get me back dancing. And my surgeon is amazing. He's the surgeon for the Seahawks and for Pacific Northwest Ballet, which is one of the best ballet companies in the country, which is in Seattle, Washington. So I knew that he knew what he was talking about. And in that moment, I decided, yeah, I'm going to have surgery, because obviously. And so that was, I want to say December 17th, and I had surgery December 29th, 2014. And it was horrible. It was actually the worst thing of my entire life. I'm not being dramatic. I was so scared because I watched too much Grey's Anatomy, and so I thought I was going to die on the table. But after I got past the fact that I probably wasn't going to die on the table, I was really scared that I was going to lose my limb. And then after I got past that part, I was just scared something was going to go wrong and that I wasn't going to be able to dance again. So I also didn't want a general anesthetic, so I had, like, they blocked my, like, I basically was paralyzed for a couple hours from, like, the waist down. And they gave me an anesthetic up here. So I kept waking up in surgery, and I kept asking how it was going. And so I was like, is it going okay? And they're like, yeah. I was like, okay, can I have some more, please? Thank you. And then I'd pass out again. And then I remember looking at the clock, being like, okay, it's been over an hour and a half. Like, why am I still here? And then I woke up, and it was over, and I was so happy because I had both my legs, and I couldn't feel them still, which probably was why I was happy. And then the week after surgery, I don't remember New Year's. I don't really remember that whole week. I was on a lot of pain medicine, and it was really rough. The doctor had tried to put the screw in my foot the first time, but it wasn't secure, and so we had to take it out and re-put it back in.